The fishing boats at Laughing Lake suddenly started bouncing like popcorn. Boing, boing, boing! And every fish in the water was giggling. Not normal giggling, loud giggling. The ducks were laughing. The frogs were laughing. Even the trees sounded like they were trying not to laugh. And standing at the edge of the lake, with wide, fuzzy eyes, was a tiny orange fox wearing blue suspenders and oversized boots. Fuzzlefox gasped, "Oh no!" His fishing bucket bounced away. Boing! Splash! Then the lake itself made a sound. Fuzzlefox froze. The lake was laughing. Picture this: bright green hills, sparkly water, tiny wooden docks, clouds shaped like marshmallows, and one very confused fox staring at a laughing lake while fish flipped through the air like circus acrobats. Nobody saw this coming. Fuzzlefox scratched his fluffy head. Lakes don't laugh. The lake laughed harder. Ha 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 ha! Water splashed everywhere. A turtle spun in circles, giggling uncontrollably. A pelican fell backward into a bush. And then things got worse. A giant bubble rose from the middle of the lake. Blub, blub, blub. Pop! A wave of laughter blasted across the shore. Everyone nearby burst into silly giggles. Ha ha ha! Hee hee hee! Honk honk! Ha ha ha! Even Fuzzlefox started laughing. He tried to stop. He couldn't. His tail wiggled like a jump rope. His boots squeaked. He rolled down the hill laughing into a haystack. Fwump! When he finally stopped giggling, he peeked toward the lake carefully. The water was glowing pink. That's definitely not normal. Just then, a tiny squirrel zoomed past on a skateboard. "Emergency! Emergency! The bakery muffins are laughing too!" What? Fuzzlefox blinked. The squirrel pointed dramatically. "All the jelly donuts are bouncing out the windows!" Fuzzlefox gasped again. This is serious. He grabbed his explorer backpack, tightened his suspenders, and marched toward town. But on the very first step, splat! He slipped on a laughing fish. The fish snorted. Poof! Fuzzlefox slid down the dock, spinning like a noodle. Crash. Splash. Moment one had arrived. The silly mistake. Fuzzlefox climbed out, soaking wet, with seaweed stuck to his ears. A nearby crab clapped politely. Impressive landing. Thank you, Fuzzlefox sighed. The town square was total chaos. Muffins bounced. Bananas danced. 3 chickens chased their own shadows while laughing hysterically. A watermelon rolled through town wearing sunglasses. Nobody knew where the sunglasses came from. But wait. Right in the middle of town stood Mayor Bumbleberry. The mayor was a round raccoon in a fancy purple hat. He blew a tiny whistle. Tweet! Attention, everyone! Please stop laughing at the vegetables. A carrot squeaked past him wearing roller skates. You'll never catch me! The crowd screamed with laughter. Mayor Bumbleberry spotted Fuzzlefox immediately. Fuzzlefox, you solve weird problems. Fuzzlefox pointed nervously at himself. Me? Yes, you! Another pie bounced past and splatted onto the mayor's hat. Fwop! The mayor sighed deeply. This town needs help. Fuzzlefox looked toward the glowing lake in the distance. I think the lake started all this. The mayor gasped. The Laughing Lake legend? Everybody nearby froze. Even the chickens stopped. For 2 whole seconds. Then one chicken sneezed glitter. Chaos resumed instantly. Mayor Bumbleberry leaned closer dramatically. Long ago, the Laughing Lake had magical joy bubbles. Fuzzlefox blinked. Joy bubbles? Yes, but if too many bubbles escaped at once. The ground shook. Booing. A giant rubbery wave bounced across town. Citizens flew gently upward like balloons. Whee! Nobody got hurt, but everybody screamed in surprise. Mayor Bumbleberry pointed urgently. The bubbles are escaping again! Fuzzlefox gulped. How do we stop them? The mayor pulled out an ancient map covered in jelly stains. There's a giggle geyser deep inside the lake caves. The what? The giggle geyser. The mayor whispered the words like they were sacred treasure. If it overflows, the entire valley will laugh forever. Fuzzlefox imagined cows laughing during sleep, birds laughing mid-flight, pancakes laughing on breakfast plates. That would get very annoying. The mayor nodded seriously. You must find the golden cork. Fuzzlefox stared. There's a cork? Of course there's a cork. And that's when things got weird. A goose wearing floaties crashed through town carrying a sign that read, The lake ate my sandwich. Fuzzlefox grabbed the map. I'll fix this. The crowd cheered loudly. A pie hit a lamppost. Splop. Fuzzlefox marched toward the forest trail beside the lake. But after only 10 steps, whoosh, something snatched the map away. Hey! A sneaky raccoon bandit zoomed through the trees holding the map. Moment 2 had begun. The chase. Come back here! Fuzzlefox sprinted after him. Branches bounced. Leaves flew. Squirrels gasped dramatically. The raccoon bandit leaped across logs while cackling. You'll never catch Ricky Quickpaws! Ricky Quickpaws flipped through the air like a circus gymnast. Fuzzlefox chased him downhill, then uphill, then sideways somehow. Nobody understood the sideways part. A goat watching nearby shrugged. Forest stuff. Ricky Quickpaws bounced across mushrooms like trampolines. Boing, boing, boing. Fuzzlefox tried the same thing. Bad idea. One mushroom sneezed powder into his face. Poof! Now his fur was bright blue. Ricky laughed so hard he crashed into a berry bush. Ha 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 ha! Berries exploded everywhere. Fuzzlefox finally grabbed the map. Gotcha! But then it got worse. The hill beneath them crumbled. Uh-oh. Both of them slid screaming down a muddy slope. Skirt! They crashed into the lake cave's entrance. Splash. Drip, drip. Everything went quiet. Very quiet. Tiny glowing mushrooms lit the cave walls. Water sparkled pink. And somewhere deep inside, something giggled. Ricky Quickpaws slowly stood up. Okay, that's creepy. Fuzzlefox nodded carefully. Very creepy. A bubble floated past them. Pop! It exploded into confetti. Both screamed anyway. Then a tiny voice echoed nearby. You're standing on my sandwich. Fuzzlefox looked down. A tiny green turtle was squished beneath Ricky's tail. Oh! Ricky jumped away. The turtle dusted himself off proudly. I am Professor Wobblewink. Professor Wobblewink wore giant goggles and wheeled around on roller skates made from soup cans. Moment 3 had arrived. The unexpected helper. You know about the lake? Fuzzlefox asked. Professor Wobblewink nodded dramatically. Indeed! The giggle geyser is overflowing! How do we stop it? The turtle pulled out blueprints from nowhere. Nobody knew where he stored them, possibly inside the shell. Simple, he said. Then he looked closer at the blueprints. Oh dear. What? I spilled pickle juice on the instructions. The paper smelled strongly of pickles. Ricky sniffed it. Now I'm hungry. Professor Wobblewink pointed deeper into the caves. The golden cork lies beyond the bubble maze. The bubble maze? Very dangerous. A bubble floated by wearing a tiny mustache. Bonjour. Fuzzlefox blinked slowly. This cave gets stranger every minute. The trio marched forward carefully. Squish, squash, plop. The cave floor bounced like jelly. Suddenly, giant bubbles rose around them. Transparent, wobbly, huge. One swallowed Ricky whole. Ah! The bubble floated upward, carrying him away. Fuzzlefox grabbed his leg. Professor Wobblewink grabbed Fuzzlefox's tail. Now all three floated together through the cave. Nobody was happy about it. They bounced through twisting tunnels. A bubblefish waved politely. A snail passed them driving a tiny scooter. How is that snail faster than us? Ricky shouted. Nobody answered. Then they reached the bubble maze. It was enormous. Hundreds of glowing tunnels twisted everywhere. Every wall bounced. Every step squeaked. And somewhere ahead echoed loud, booming laughter. Ha 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 ha! The giggle geyser. Professor Wobblewink adjusted his goggles. We must stay focused. Immediately afterward, he walked into a wall. Bonk. Ricky snorted. Fuzzlefox tried not to laugh. But wait. A giant bubble monster suddenly emerged from the shadows. Wobble! It had huge, wiggly eyes, rubbery arms, and hiccups. Everyone screamed. The bubble monster sneezed sparkles. Then it accidentally tied itself into a knot. Fuzzlefox stared. Is it dangerous? Professor Wobblewink squinted. Hard to tell. The monster bounced toward them dramatically. Ricky panicked. Run! They sprinted through the maze. Left, right, bounce, slide, crash. The bubble monster followed while hiccuping loudly. Fuzzlefox grabbed the map. We're lost! Professor Wobblewink pointed proudly. I know a shortcut. He pulled a lever. Wrong lever. Suddenly, the floor disappeared. Ah! All three dropped into a giant underground water slide. Moment 4. Everything goes wrong. They zoomed through twisting tunnels at lightning speed. Whoosh! Spin! Splash! Ricky flew upside down. Fuzzlefox bounced off walls. Professor Wobblewink somehow started eating popcorn during the disaster. "How are you calm right now?" Ricky yelled. "I panic efficiently." The slide launched them into a gigantic hidden cavern. And there it was. The Giggle Geyser. It exploded from the center of the cavern like a pink fountain of soda. Gigantic laughter bubbles blasted into the air. The entire cave shook. "Ha ha ha ha!" The geyser itself was laughing. Fuzzlefox's jaw dropped. "That thing is huge!" The golden cork sat nearby on a tiny floating island. Unfortunately, the island was surrounded by bouncing whirlpools, and the bubble monster had caught up. "Wobble!" It bounced toward the geyser, then accidentally bounced into the geyser. Boom! Pink bubbles exploded everywhere. The geyser became even wilder. "Oh no," whispered Professor Wobblewink. The laughter bubbles started escaping through cracks in the cave ceiling, toward the town, toward the valley, toward everything. Ricky pointed upward. "If those reach the mountains, even the bears will start laughing." Nobody wanted laughing bears, especially not during picnic season. Fuzzlefox took a deep breath. Think, think, think. Then his ears perked up. "I have an idea." Ricky stared suspiciously. "Should we trust your ideas?" "No." "Fair enough." Fuzzlefox pointed at the whirlpools. "Those bubbles bounce off everything."
Professor Wobblewink gasped.
"Oh my goodness!" Ricky blinked. "What?" Fuzzlefox grinned. "We don't need to cross the whirlpools." He grabbed a giant bubble nearby. "We bounce across." Moment 5. The smart comeback. Professor Wobblewink clapped excitedly. "Genius!" Ricky still looked terrified. "This feels unsafe." "It probably is," Fuzzlefox admitted. Then he jumped. Boing! The giant bubble launched him across the cavern. He bounced off another bubble, then another, then another, like a fluffy orange pinball. The others followed screaming. "Ah!" Boing, boing, sproing. Ricky accidentally flipped 3 times mid-air. Professor Wobblewink yelled scientific terms nobody understood. The bubble monster watched excitedly and started clapping. "Ha ha ha!" Fuzzlefox finally landed on the floating island beside the golden cork. He grabbed it triumphantly. It sparkled bright gold. Tiny trumpets played somewhere magically. Ricky landed face first into pudding. Nobody questioned why pudding was there. Professor Wobblewink adjusted his goggles dramatically. "Quickly, plug the geyser." Easy to say, very hard to do. The geyser blasted laughter bubbles like fireworks. The cavern shook violently. Fuzzlefox squinted at the geyser opening. "I need to get closer." Ricky pointed at a floating raft nearby. "Use that." The raft was actually a bathtub, but this cave had already stopped making sense hours ago. Fuzzlefox jumped into the bathtub. Ricky shoved him forward. Whoosh! The bubbling current launched him directly toward the geyser. Fuzzlefox held the golden cork tightly. The geyser roared louder. "Ha ha 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 ha!" Bubbles exploded everywhere. One bubble put a fake moustache on Fuzzlefox mid-flight. Another spun the bathtub sideways. Whoa! But then, the bubble monster bounced in front of him accidentally. Bonk. Fuzzlefox flew upward, spinning through the air. The golden cork almost slipped away. Everyone gasped. Even the geezer paused for dramatic effect. Slow motion. The cork twirled. Fuzzlefox stretched his paws. Ricky screamed. Professor Wobblewink fainted politely. Then, grab. Fuzzlefox caught the cork. Yes! He flipped through the air and slammed the cork straight into the giggle geezer. Plonk. Silence. Everything froze. No laughter. No shaking. No bouncing. One tiny drip echoed through the cave. Drip. Drip. Then, the cork squeaked. Everyone backed away nervously. Squeak. The cork popped upward slightly. Squeak. Fuzzlefox gulped. Please stay in there. The cork wiggled, then settled perfectly into place. The geyser stopped. Completely. A peaceful glow spread across the cavern. The whirlpools calmed. The bubbles floated gently away, and somewhere in the distance, a duck applauded. The town above suddenly became quiet too. No more bouncing muffins, no more laughing vegetables, no more glitter-sneezing chickens. The disaster was over. Everybody cheered. Fuzzlefox smiled proudly. Ricky Quickpaws wiped pudding off his face. Professor Wobblewink skated tiny victory circles around them. We did it! The bubble monster hiccuped softly. Hit! Then it gave Fuzzlefox a thumbs up. Turns out it was friendly the whole time. Nobody saw that coming. The trio returned to town heroes. Crowds filled the streets cheering wildly. Mayor Bumbleberry nearly cried with happiness. You saved Laughing Lake! Confetti exploded everywhere. Someone played kazoo music. A squirrel accidentally launched himself from a trampoline into a fountain. Perfect celebration. The mayor handed Fuzzlefox a giant pancake trophy. For bravery! Fuzzlefox smiled awkwardly. Thank you? The trophy smelled delicious. Ricky Quickpaws got a medal for extremely chaotic assistance. Professor Wobblewink received a golden pickle jar. He cried tears of joy. That evening, the entire town gathered beside the calm, peaceful lake. Lanterns glowed softly. Fireflies danced. Families laughed normally this time. Not magical, uncontrollable laughing, just happy laughing. Fuzzlefox sat on the dock, swinging his boots peacefully. Mayor Bumbleberry sat beside him. You know, said the mayor, the town will remember this forever. Fuzzlefox smiled. I'm just glad the lake stopped laughing. The water stayed perfectly calm, still, peaceful, quiet. Then, blub. Fuzzlefox froze. Another bubble rose slowly from the lake. The mayor froze too. The bubble popped gently. Pop. A tiny voice squeaked from the water. Anybody seen my sandwich? Professor Wobblewink gasped from across the dock. My lunch!